Our next topic is called Zugzwang, which means compulsion to move. Compulsion to move means that at every turn, a player must make a move. He can't just say, I'll pass, and have the opponent make another move. It doesn't work that way. To show you how this would work in a real game, let's take a look at this simple position. White's up a pawn, and the pawn's on a very highly advanced square, ready to promote. The problem is that it's White's move. Since it's White's move, no matter what he does, the game will be a draw. If the king comes to c6, for example, then it's stalemate. And if the king goes to any of these squares over here, then he will be forced to give up control of the c7 square, and black will be able to take the c7 pawn, which ends in a draw as well. White doesn't want to make a move here. In fact, he would rather have it be black's move. If it were black's move, then if king b7, then king d7, and c8 queen will be forced. This is Zugzwang. Zugzwang is when one person doesn't want to make a move, but has to play some legal move on his turn. And then the other player can use that to his advantage. Let's take a look at another more complex example. Over here, black is threatening to promote his pawn on a2 with a1 queen. After a1 queen, white will be forced to trade the rook with the queen. And for example, I can show you a line. For example, king d1, a1 queen. Then rook takes, king takes. And no, even though white can come over and win all of black's pawns on the king's side, black's king will follow him over. And even though he will be up a pawn at the end, this position ends up being a draw because this pawn here is h-pawn. For example, if king h7, king f7, h6, king f8. If white wants to play king h8, then after king f7, the pawn actually gets stuck on h7. And the king and pawn get stuck there, and it's going to be a stalemate. It's a draw. Does this mean that this position is drawn no matter what? Let's go back to the beginning and take a look. At this position, white has a small resource that he can use, and this resource is called Zugzwang. If white plays rook to a1, black must make a choice. Black must make a move here, and he has two choices. He can either take the rook or play something like king to a3. If he plays king to a3, then we can simply just play king to c2, and king to a4, then we can win this pawn, and obviously white's up a rook, he will win this game. And after rook a1, if he plays something like obviously g5, then we have en passant, and we can also promote our pawn here. So now that leaves us with the last choice, king takes a1. If his king takes a rook, then we have the nifty idea of playing king to c2, trapping his king and his pawn on the a file. Now, black would like to not make any moves. If black doesn't make any moves, white has no way to make any progress here. White can play king to c1, king to c2 all day, but that's not going to make any progress for either side. It will be a draw. The problem is black must make a move here. And if black makes a move, the only piece he can move turns out to be this g7 pawn. This is a little bit unfortunate because no matter if he plays g6 or if he goes g5, then you can just simply take on g6. And after h5, g7, h4, g8 queen, and h3, white will be able to give checkmate. For example, queen to g7, checkmate. The idea here is that after king takes a1, we can trap his king in the corner, and after we trap his king in the corner, we force him to make a move here. He must make a move, and it's unfortunate for him that the only piece that he can move is this g7 pawn, which allows us to promote our pawn. We now move to number 3 on your worksheet. Usually, king and knight is regarded as not even mating material. There's no chance for white to win here. But it's surprising that in this special situation, white actually has a little trick that can help him win. If you would like more time, you can pause your video, but here's the answer. The answer here is to play the move king to c2. After king to c2, black has only one legal move, and that legal move is king to a1. And now, after knight to c1, black would like to not make a move. If black doesn't make a move, then white can't really make any progress. White can check here if he wants, but it's not going to happen. Like nothing's going to happen. If he plays his king here, nothing happens like once again. But the problem is black must make a move, and his king's only flight square is a2 right now. The knight currently controls it, but after knight b3, it doesn't control it. But the problem is black is forced to play the move a2 that takes away the king's flight square, and after it takes away the king's flight square, we can play knight to b3 checkmate. Going back, we can take a look, right? First of all, his king's short of squares. His king can't go to that many squares, and after he plays king to a1, we take away his flight square for right now, which forces black to make a move. If he makes a move, then he has to play a2, which takes away his last flight square. And then we play knight to b3. That's checkmate. This is number 5 on your worksheet. In this position, it seems like black doesn't have that many good moves here. Black actually can only move his bishop and this pawn. This pawn can go up 1, and this bishop can move anywhere on this diagonal. However, if you're observing closely, you can see that this bishop would not really be able to move, because if his bishop does move, then we have rook takes h7 checkmate. So really, the only move that black has that would be good for him would be to move that h7 pawn. If he moves to h6, though, I think that black should be okay for right now. Therefore, the correct move for white, if you want to take some time to pause your video, you can do so right now. So the correct move for white is to play rook to h6. And now, this pawn has no legal moves. It can't take because it's pinned, and obviously it can't move forward because the rook's there. And now, if his pawn takes our rook, we have g7 checkmate. And if his bishop moves away, for example, bishop to c4, then we can checkmate by rook takes h7. Once again, it's because that black is forced to make a move that he loses the game here. If black doesn't make a move, white does not have a simple way to checkmate him just yet. Zugzwang is a useful tool that you can use, especially when there's not that many pieces on the board, so in the endgame. Because there's not that many pieces on the board, there's not that many moves that he can play. And when you limit him to the number of moves he can play, then sometimes he's forced to make a bad move.